So week 6 of the college football season is next weekend coming up real quick. And I just want to take some time to go through a few of the games, not all of them, but just some of the bigger games that we'll have this weekend. And today we're going to start with the Tennessee Arkansas game if I get a chance to talk about my Volunteers for a minute. So week 6, Tennessee's 4-0. They travel to Fayetteville to take on a 3-2 Arkansas team who has played okay this year. However, 3-2, they had the week 2 loss in overtime to Oklahoma State, and they're fresh off the loss from A&M last weekend. So, and Tennessee, of course, as everybody knows, has the bye week, which was important right now for Tennessee, but we'll get into that in a minute. The sports books have this game at Tennessee about a 13.5 point favorite. I would take it. I would take it if I had the extra money and the ability to do that kind of thing. I would take it. I believe Tennessee is going to cover 13 points, 13.5 points rather easily. Um, Arkansas just isn't a very good team this year, but they have done plenty of things right, and to kind of save a little bit of face for them, maybe they're headed in the right direction, but only time's really going to tell with that. But yeah, the Volunteers are right now, as of the time I'm doing this video, you're seeing this on Tuesday. The Vols are a 13.5 point favorite, and the over under 60. Um, Hell, with the over and under 60, I might take the over there. But as we said, Arkansas is fresh off a loss from A&M. Arkansas struggled to score points. Arkansas passed okay, but their run game hasn't been that great. Um, Taylon Green at A&M was 23 of 41, which could be better for 279 yards. He had one touchdown and an interception. Arkansas on the defensive side of things, their defensive line is good, but they have no depth. Um, I would predict that the first quarter of this Tennessee game may be a little closer than what a lot of people think it's going to be. But Arkansas doesn't have the depth on the defensive side to go the full game with Tennessee, and that's eventually gonna break down. You're probably going to see some pretty serious points get put on the board in the second half of this game. On top of the fact that Tennessee's probably going to be leading at halftime anyway. Um, Taylon Green, their quarterback, like I mentioned, he adds a little bit of flavor, but they have no run game. It's like he doesn't really have anything else around him. Like the whole thing, they've kind of shown sparks, at time, and yeah, they have won 3 games, but I don't think this is I don't think this is going to be one of them. The Vols need some explosive downfield plays. In Oklahoma, so Tennessee, Coach Heupel, there was a lot of heat taken and dished out over the Oklahoma game against Tennessee about the play calling. And really, about what it come down to was Tennessee just, did they purposely take the foot off the gas? Were they trying to, not run up the score and be ridiculous, about it? Or were they legitimately having problems moving the ball and scoring points? I think it was deliberate. I think that Coach Heupel basically looked up and realized that Oklahoma couldn't score. Oklahoma was never going to see 20 or 21 points in that game. He took his foot off the ball. On top of the fact, and then again, we were going to talk about this too. Um, Tennessee had 2 offensive linemen out, which affected that game. Nico took the 2 fumbles, or had 2 fumbles from sacks in the first half. So Nico's not perfect, but he was having trouble uh, protecting the ball on a sack, and he's not used to getting sacked. But with those turnovers and the issues that Tennessee's offensive line was having protecting Nico, he just played it really, really safe, and he played the clock. Just play the run game. Keep the possession, keep the time of possession on your side. Again, old adage goes. I mean, you can't score any points if your offense doesn't have the ball. So when Tennessee got the ball, they kept it. But Yeah, they need some downfield explosive plays. He needs to unleash Nico a little bit on this, and they need to stretch their legs, so to speak, in the passing game because Arkansas probably what, and this has been said, but I wholeheartedly agree with it. Arkansas's game plan in this game is going to be to load the box and stop the run. You know, if Arkansas is going to give up any big explosive plays, you know, it's almost like they would rather get burned in the air than they would on the field or on the ground with long running plays. So I really think their game plan is to gonna load the box, keep everybody up front, and plug up the run game. Well, they're going to get Nico is going to torch them through the air if they do that. If they play all their defensive backs shallow like that, Brew, Brew McCoy and all the rest of them, they are going to easily, Thornton, they are easily going to be able to get behind those defensive backs. And by the time the ball is thrown and the Tennessee receivers catch them, there's not going to be an Arkansas defensive player anywhere around them. I predict, and if this ends up coming to fruition, if this really is the route that Arkansas has chosen to take, uh, Tennessee wins this game big, and they do it through the air. I predict that most of the Tennessee touchdowns scored are going to come through the passing game. But back to defense, Tennessee's offensive line, they hope to return Lance Hurd and John Campbell, who were both out. With the Oklahoma game, Hurd was already out. Campbell went out, but um, they're hoping to have both of those guys back. Um, Lance Hurd being gone, his replacement, his backup, did not play badly in the Oklahoma game, but just it was a huge moment, lack of experience, and everything else that goes with a young player that hasn't really kind of been in that situation. Lance Hurd not being in the game affected that. But by all accounts, the hard and fast decision has not been made yet. But by all accounts, the Vols will return both of those guys back. And then Nico, how is Nico going to do in this? This is his second SEC road game, and there was a lot of question marks around him about how he would handle himself, how he would handle the environment and the crowd and the moment when they went to Norman. And I think most of us would agree he handled it pretty well. He really did. Um, you know, didn't panic when he got sacked. I mean, yeah, through just bad ball handling or bad ball protection, he fumbled those balls, but it didn't stay in his head. That he could have had both of those sacks, lost both of those fumbles, and it ruined him for the rest of the game. How many times have, especially us as Tennessee fans, how many times have we seen a quarterback do that, make mistakes like that, and then all of a sudden they can't shake it off? And he did. So, I think Oklahoma compared to Arkansas, it was a bigger moment in front of a crazier crowd in Norman than what he's going to see at Arkansas. Now, yeah, will the game be sold out? It probably so, but I mean, most people would agree, and this isn't trolling. Arkansas, Fayetteville is not the hardest place in the SEC to play. Not even one of the top five hardest places to play. So, the fans are going to be there. They're going to be into it. Would not be surprised if this game isn't sold out. But another test, if you want to go that far and call it, for Nico and some of the younger players, is to how they deal on the road. Nico said several times in several interviews he would rather play on the road than he would at home, and I think that comes from like a willingness to embrace a challenge, which he does, and he does very, very well. But this game, it's going to be worth watching. It's going to be fun. I predict Tennessee is going to go ahead and open up that pass game a little bit. They're probably going to open up the playbook a little more um, with Nico and the receivers. Nico has already on the year. Nico has already passed for 892 yards in the first 4 weeks of the season. In 4 games, 892 yards passing. You know what? He's up there. He is in a top tier level with. I mean, Nico is an elite quarterback. And our defense, hey guys, I cannot praise our defense enough for how far they've come because, again, if you're anything like me and if you've been watching Tennessee for more than a couple of days, we remember the bad defense, the recent days of bad defense. We've had offense, with the quarterbacks we've had, Josh Dobbs, and kind of what we could get out of Joe Milton. And now Nico, we've always had the offense, we've always had the receivers, good running backs, Squirrel White, you know, we've kind of always had that, and we've been able to maintain that. So it is such a breath of fresh air to see a complete package now. The same, high caliber, fast Josh Heupel, high point scoring offense that we've had, and now we've got a defense to complement it. It's just a suffocating defense. I would say that Tennessee's defensive line, their defensive line, their guys up front, that is the most talented position group on the team right now. And that's not saying anybody else is having problems. It's just they are our most talented group is our defensive front. And even with all the questions that we had coming into the season, that conceded and said, yeah, Tennessee's got a great defensive line. What does their secondary look like? What's gonna happen to them? How are they gonna look when they're challenged downfield? I think we're going to be fine. Now, granted, yes, we haven't played a team with a quarterback that can really air it out, with a team that likes to do that. So, has our defensive backs really been, tested that much yet? No, not really. But I do think when the time comes, I think they're going to be fine. And chances are that real test isn't going to come until a couple of weeks when we play Alabama at home. And everybody saw what Jalen Milroe did to Georgia. We'll get into that later. Plus, trust me, there's plenty of time for that. I think one of the reasons, not the only one, maybe not even the main reason, but I think one of the reasons why Alabama was able to pull off that win against Georgia is because Georgia couldn't play defense against an offense with a quarterback that can run. We have that. We have that. If whether it's a run option, some kind of run option or RPO or whatever, if it's a play that our offense gets into where when things kind of start breaking down and go south, whether they're planned or not, and Nico has to run, he can do that. So Alabama pretty much gave the blueprint for, if you want to beat us, this is how you've got to do it. We have a mobile quarterback. Some people would say that Alabama's quarterback is one of, if not the best running back in the country. And they're saying, Alabama basically has a running back playing quarterback. But that isn't the only reason. The fact that Georgia couldn't defend against that, but it puts it out there. But this Tennessee Arkansas game, it's going to be a good game. It's going to be worth watching. Just some little things that they'll have a chance to clean up as they move on through the season. I believe next week starts a home game series of runs with Florida. Arkansas this week, Florida next weekend, and then Alabama the weekend after that. So yeah. 4-0 Tennessee versus a 3-2 Arkansas. Tennessee ranked number 4. So that'll be how that is. Arkansas, that'll be the rank, obviously, for the weekend against unranked Arkansas. Arkansas is going to put up a fight. They're not just going to roll over and pretend like they're not even there. But by that same token, Tennessee went to Oklahoma, and played them. Oklahoma's supposed to have one of the best quarterbacks in college football. He didn't make it to halftime, or just barely did. As talented as Taylon Green is, how is he going to do against this defense? I mean, or is Tennessee going to retire another quarterback for another team? But a lot to watch out for. It's going to be a great game as always. Hit that like button. I appreciate y'all taking your time to listen to me ramble a little bit. Go Vols, and we'll see you next weekend.